Well, a lot has transpired in the last 2 weeks. And it's amazing because that is life. You know, our life is but a whisper. And there's a lot of lessons that even I myself have learned throughout this experience. I consider myself a person of God. I consider myself a person that prays, meditates, and does a devotional every day. And then, of course, I see all the miracles God's done in my life. And, you know, over the last 2 weeks, life taught me a very, very huge lesson. And that is that I knew that life was just a whisper, but I just did not know how quick of a whisper. And I always told people I'd never fear anything, did not fear death. Well, I didn't fear death when I thought I was going to go to hell. So I definitely did not fear death now that I believe that I'm going to go to heaven. But the question is that true? Is that for real? How do you really know you don't fear death? You know, when your life has changed, when you're a different person, when you have a great family, a great wife, great children, the possibility of death can be a little challenging. Well, within the last 2 weeks, been perfectly imperfect condition, all of a sudden I find out that I had an anomalous origin of the left coronary artery. So basically, on the left side of my aorta, the artery is called the LAD, or as is known as the Widowmaker. I was not born with it on the left side. I was born with it on the right side. Here in Orlando, they found it. A great cardiologist found it through a CT scan, even though I have been going to a cardiologist in Palm Beach with the Cleveland Clinic for really over 3 years. But he found it and got alarmed because, you know, if you read enough about it, it tells you that you could die any second. Technically, I wasn't supposed to have lived past the age of 35. But I did. And I did Ironman, and I did extreme sports that should have killed me any minute. Because as we have seen lately with the soccer player, and we saw with Pistol Pete Maravich, you know, it's a condition where you have no symptoms, and all of a sudden you just drop. But when you drop, you're gone. So I get that news. The cardiologist told me that even though there's good surgeons here in Orlando, I should go to one of the two biggest clinics, which is Cleveland and Mayo. Truth is that Cleveland is the leader in the world in exactly the heart defect that I have. So I decided that, all of a sudden, things just worked out. My wife wrote really nasty emails. We got a call immediately from Cleveland Clinic, Ohio, and she sent them the CAT scan. The Nurse Jean and Nurse Betsy, which are amazing nurses, said that someone would get back to us, you know, in a couple of days, and sure enough, it did. All the records were sent up. Dr. Peterson, he is considered the world's authority on the heart defect that I have. So he saw it on Tuesday, I got a call and said, listen, can you be up here following Wednesday? Dr. Peterson does not accept the test that you have had through all the other cardiologists. He decides to run his own, and he's got a cardiologist that he works strictly with, Dr. Gabriel. Unbelievable person. So my wife said, no question, he's headed out there. So we packed, and that Wednesday we headed off to Cleveland. Sure enough, Thursday morning they began to run all kinds of tests. So they ran tests on Thursday, and then they ran tests on Friday. The test on Friday was an echocardiogram. Now I've had 6 of them here in between Palm Beach and Orlando, none of them like they did at the Cleveland Clinic. Come to find out that echocardiogram reveals that not only I have this defect, but in fact I also have a hole in my heart. So we meet on Monday with the cardiologist, and she tells us straight out, look, you can die the sudden death syndrome. And with your condition, it can happen at any time. But we have you scheduled for open heart surgery on Thursday. You will meet with Dr. Peters on Wednesday, and he will do the open heart surgery. All indication is that you will have the surgery Thursday, which is today. But she says, I want to first rule everything out. So I'm going to do a very extensive catheterization, which go on IVUS, IV as in Victor, US, with dopamine. And I'm going to check the blood flow of your heart. Well, sure enough, I went on Monday morning. Ended up being about 2 o'clock because in the middle of, before I was supposed to go in at 10:30, they had someone come in with a massive heart attack that Dr. Gabriel had to attend to and save. So I went and I got the catheter. It's a very dangerous procedure. Basically, I was in the cardiac room. I had pads on my back and front for the defibrillator. And painful? Oh my God. Well, I'll just tell you this. The drug that they use to ease the pain, because you have to be awake. So I asked the assisting doctor, what drug do you all use? He said, well, we use this drug, this pill. He told me, I forgot what it was, no, injection for anxiety. I said, look, I don't have no anxiety. He said, and then we use for pain fentanyl. And I'm like, dude, fentanyl? You know all them people are dying in the mountains of Tennessee, West Virginia, of a fentanyl overdose? Are you crazy? And he's like, well, outside of a medical confined and really controlled situation, it can be deadly, but in here, it's actually an amazing drug. I looked at him like, oh man, I hope you haven't been hitting that fentanyl. Anyway, so they went begin to do the procedure. And it was, many times, it was very, very painful. Literally what they do is on this part of the arm, as you can see the Band-Aid there, because I still have the incision for where they go into that main artery there, and they stick the catheter all the way up to your heart, and they measure your heart flow. At the same time, they, through IVs, they inject some type of a drug that speeds up your heart gradually so that the cardiologist can determine at what, how many beats per minute does my heart begin to feel that is being stressed. So they did that. My poor wife, I don't know how to thank God for her. She got, I mean, literally the scare of her life. She was waiting in the waiting room. They give you a beeper and a number. Now the procedure is going to be 2 to 2.5 hours. So she's waiting in there and she sees all these doctors coming and talking to the patients about other procedures and everything's fine. Suddenly, she looks at the board 1:30 and it's complete. And she's like, impossible. It takes minimum 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then the nurse calls her to the desk and said, Mrs. Valdez, the doctor would like to see you in room 1. My poor wife, she broke out in hives. Her entire arms, her legs. She's like, oh my God, he died. Because, I mean, they finished so quickly. And on top of that, every doctor comes out to the waiting room. This one wants to see me inside a room is because she don't want to see me cry and break down. But thank God it wasn't the case. So she talked to my wife for a while. My wife told me, I was a little dopey when she told me. But I thought, look, I want to talk to the cardiologist. So when the cardiologist eventually came into the room where I was recuperating, in a couple of hours, because you got to stay in this room, they monitor you like nothing I have ever seen. The care that you get at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio is second to none on earth. And no wonder they're the #1 hospital in the world in heart disease. Anyway, so she came to talk to me and I'm like, she told me the findings and I said, Doc, here's the thing. I need you to tell me, if I need this surgery sooner or later, I'm going to have it on Thursday. And if not, tell me why not, or if there's a life change that I can do. We'll come to find out that Cleveland Clinic, the entire department that works on this defect has done so much research now, even though there's very few people like me. She said, look, I had to stress your heart to 155 before I could see a minute blood flow. But here's the thing. You have the artery, that main artery that goes to your heart is pushed down, is pressed down by your heart muscle. But somehow, I'm going to say God, she did not say God, but somehow God, that's my word, made it big enough so that you still get the blood you need for your heart. Your heart is in perfect shape. He says, I look at you and can tell that you have been an athlete because you have 0 plaque. You must eat well. I said, I haven't gone to a fast food restaurant in, I don't know, 25 years. And she says, so here's the thing. If you tell me, Dr. Gabriel, I want to run a marathon or I want to do Ironman, we proceed with the surgery on Thursday. But if you tell me that you're done with that and you're willing to watch and continue to live that healthy lifestyle where you exercise a lot, where you eat really right, and if you do that and you don't stress your heart above 155, I believe you can live a long life. Nonetheless, I want to see you every couple of years, and I'll work with your cardiologist, and we'll come up with a plan. Needless to say, that day I went back to the room, and I told my wife, let's find a ticket, and we're going to surprise the kids, and we went home Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning. So here it is Thursday. So today I was supposed to have open heart surgery, but today I'm talking to you. And what is amazing about life is that I did see life. I mean, I saw death so close to me. I was not stressed out for 1 minute, but my wife and kids were very, very stressed out. I have amazing friends, and I thank so many of you viewing this video today that, really cared about me and prayed and sent messages. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, if you live a good life and you've been good to people and you lived a life of integrity and a life of truth, and if you haven't hurt anyone or cheated on anyone, I think that, you will have a lot of people that really care about you. And on top of that, if you live a life of faith where you really truly believe that you're in God's hands, then no matter what happens, you can't lose. So like I told the doctor, I said, look, doc, I want to live. Don't get me wrong. But I want to live, but see my kids grow up. I want to see my kids go to college. I mean, not finish college. And I want to see my kids do great in life. But if I die, I'm going to be okay because I'm going to see my father and my mother. And if that's a whole bunch of crap, then you know what? I'm going to go where everybody else goes. And actually, there's just nothing to worry about. So it was an amazing ride. It was an amazing experience. It was tough because every day I see my poor wife struggling. Don't do this, don't live this, thinking that I'm going to die any minute. And truth is, I could have died. Truth is, I could die today. Like I told the doctor, I said, doc, so can you. So can any of us. Once we're alive, that's all we need to die. But my faith carried me through when I really saw the possibility of going into an operating for a very critical surgery and not coming out alive. And I was fine with that. Again, don't confuse me. Not fine that that's what I wanted, but fine that at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay because I have faith. I have faith in a God that saved me, a God that changed my heart when I was just a heinous of old mess, a God that gave me a new life. Because see, this is the message that I want to bring to you and to everybody. We're not defined by our past. We have an opportunity to really redefine ourselves. And there is hope and there's redemption. And we could be better. And at the end of our lives, it is not the first chapter that gets told about, but it's really how you end life. And, many of us have made horrible choices. I know that. God forgives us. And I can tell people, listen, I put my trust in God. And if there is no God, someone said to me, oh, that's Pascual's wager. I don't care what wager it is. At the end of the day, I know one thing. I had everything the world had to offer. Millions of dollars at the age of 20. And I was miserable and wanted to die. And then I turned my life to God out of desperation. Actually, as a gambler because I ran out of options. I turned my life over to God. And what happened? With nothing. With a lot of uncertainty, a lot of darkness. Imprisoned for years. My life began to take meaning. So those that are atheists, I was. And those that say, oh, you're just gambling with God, or whatever they want to say, I just got to say this to you. How do you really explain a changed life? And that's my life. And that's why the theatrical releases that are going to come in this near future, some very, very soon, are going to get out that message. It's not the message that I was this big drug dealer and live a lavish lifestyle. The message of Pablo, the message of El Chapo, the message of all of them. Poor kid, broken home, or not a broken home, a good home, drops out of school, joins a life of crime, makes a lot of money, lives a lavish lifestyle, kills people, kidnaps people, dies or goes to prison for life. That ain't my story. And that's not the story I ever wanted to tell. Yeah, I was poor because we came from Cuba with nothing. But I went to school. I worked for the Federal Reserve Bank. And I joined this group that eventually became known as the Medellin Drug Cartel when I was 20 years old. I was making $1 million to $3 million a month at the age of 21. And I created this enormous empire. I went to prison. I was tortured in a foreign prison. Never told on anyone. At the age of 23, I was given the highest bond in the history of America. Did my time. Came out. Changed my life because I saw that the world, the mid-80s was not the world of the mid-70s when I joined that organization. And I changed my life and walked away from that life, making $1 million a month for doing nothing. Zero risk. Then I got arrested because the government wanted my money. And I gave it all to them, over $60 million. And I went to prison dead broke. But I found meaning for my life. And I got another bachelor's and I got a master's. And I started my Ph.D. When I got released. And I finished a Ph.D. And then when I realized I could not put 6 children through college on a college professor's salary, I started a company with my wife in the basement of our house, and I built it into a multi-million-dollar company. And then I walked away when we were making millions so that I could take my children out of the United States to a country where they could see that the life that they live was not normal. We now had made it. We were making a lot of money. So we have big yachts, and we have a jet again. And we lived in $1 million plus home. And they went to the best schools. And I wanted to teach them that that is not reality. And that I definitely did not want to lose my focus on what was important. So we moved to Mexico for 5 years. And in Mexico, my children learned and acquired a social conscience. And they saw people that, miss meals every week, but love God. It's easy to love God in the suburbs. It's easy to become a Christian. And I wanted them to see that. And then we came to the States, and God's blessed me with all of my children are so successful. I have an amazing wife. We're going to celebrate 24 years here now in about 15 days. And 25 next year. And, the truth of the matter is that I'm so passionate about my wife. She's the greatest passion in my life. A guy that, when I met my wife, and when we thought we were going to get married, I prayed for 3 years. 2 years that we were celebrating, I prayed, God, can I have sex with just one woman? Because I had just become so corrupted in my mind that if I didn't go to bed with 2 women, I couldn't have enjoyment. But at the end of the day, all of that, in a second, you're faced with destiny. So I ask you today, if you are faced with that challenge tomorrow, will you freak out? Will you be at peace with yourself? Or will you be saying, what if? What if I had been a better father? What if I had been a better husband? What if I had been a better son, a better friend? What if I helped those in need? What if I did not hate people? Like we see today, many people call themselves Christians. They're hateful. Andy Stanley just had a message that's amazing. He talks about, why don't we hate division more than we hate those that vote different than us? It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. Because I promise you, when you're faced with that news that you're about to die, Republican or Democrat, don't make no difference. We all go to that grave the same way. The difference is, do we go with a clear conscience that we have lived a good life, that we've been a good person, that we have helped as many as we could? Or do we go that we're selfish, hateful, divided, and all we care was talk about politics and lies and support people that were immoral, that were a bunch of liars? Or do we go to our grave saying, hey, you know what? When Jesus asked me, when did you visit me in prison, George? I can tell him, Lord, I went for 22 years to Angola. When did you feed me? I said, Lord, I've been helping so many people for so many years. When did you visit me? When I was sick. I have visited the sick. I remember when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. I was taking care of the man next to him because he couldn't urinate. And his wife was there, and he was just in pain, in deep pain. And his wife was there, and she would not take the penis, his penis, and put it through the catheter so that he could pee. Well, I did it. I don't care about that. It doesn't have no reflection upon me. Just saw a person in need and in pain. When did you care about the hungry? So those are the things that we really need to look at. I don't think we're ever going to be asked, were you liberal or conservative? Whatever that means today, either one. Were you a socialist or a communist? Or were you a Republican or a Democrat? None of that's going to matter. None. When we are faced with death, all that matters is the life that we have lived. And you know what? It might be too late to wonder, what if? I tell my children, don't ever live your life wondering what if. I don't have to wonder what it was to be a good husband. I've never cheated on my wife. We've been together 26 years. She's the love of my life. The thought of spending a day without her hurts my heart. I don't have to wonder what it is to be a father. I've been the best father that I knew how. I don't have to wonder what it is to be a son. I adore my parents. I used to go to my mother's house for dinner when I was in Miami, knowing that I could be killed any day. I did everything I could. They refused to take money from me, but at the end of the day, they wanted me to be in the home that they bought and that they created when they came from Cuba. And I did. You know, I don't want to wonder, what if I had been, a better friend? I got calls from friends that I've known now for over 35 years. Ain't that something? My best friend and I, we talk 3-4 times a week. And he loves Trump, and he's a Republican and very conservative. And I hate Trump, and I am a Republican and conservative. But my conservative values are very different than what they talk about conservative values today. Because the conservative values today means that you can lie and that there's alternative truth and that I can support, a person who's lived the most immoral life ever and who did nothing but create the biggest division in American history, then I'm not a conservative. Then I guess I'm a liberal. Or I don't know what you want to call it. I don't give a damn what people call me. At the end of the day, nobody feeds me. And at the end of the day, I just have to go through life with a clear conscience that I have been the best person I knew how to be. I send books. A lot of times my wife says, you're always wondering how not to spend $1 here, and you always negotiate. And I said, because if I get something $2 cheaper, that's 2 books, 3 books that I can send to prisoners. We sent over 40,000 books last year. It's a lot of books. I just thank God for all that he's done in my life, that he changed the life of the most heinous of all sinners. My brothers and sisters, I want to thank you so much for all your prayers, support for my family. My wife did the best she could to keep as many people aware. And here I am today. I could be right now recuperating from having a very, very serious open heart surgery, but yet I'm not. Because somehow God, in his infinite wisdom, made my artery big enough so they could pump the blood that it needed. Now, some people say, well, why did he have to, if God is the one that made you have a bigger artery, why did God made it that your artery was born in the wrong place? I don't know. Nor do I give a damn. At the end of the day, what I'm going to believe is that God is in control of my life and that whatever happens in my life, it's his will. Like I told my wife, honey, if I die, listen to me. I live the best life any human being can live. Even if I was in prison for 10 plus years, if I was tortured, and so many things I went through. But at the end of the day, none of that matters, because what matters is who I am today. And the fact that I can come to you and give you hope and just share a message of redemption and challenge you to perhaps be a better father, be a better husband, be a better son and a better friend. Our children don't need our money. They need our presence. And perhaps if you hear my story and suddenly you start thinking about, how quickly your life can end. Do you want to live asking yourself, or do you want to end your life asking yourself, what if? So it's never too late. Listen, it's never too late as long as we are seeking to do what is right. So I thank you so much. I love you. Again, I thank God that I am here. I'm not out of the woods by no means. I got to be constantly being seen by a cardiologist. And, I still have that heart defect. So, my heart could stop at any given moment. But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on the fact that while my heart is beating, I'm going to do all I can to make this a better world for you, for your family, for your children, and for all people involved. God bless you and love you, and Lord be with you.